Greetings everyone, peace to you all. Welcome to another episode of Praiseworthy Reviews, where we go through video games to see if they are excellent and commendable. Today we will be reviewing Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition, a 2017 open-world action role-playing game by developer Guerrilla Games. As usual, we will be evaluating the game based on 5 criteria: fun factor, educational value, cultural value, spiritual value, and cost. So without further ado, let's jump in. Horizon Zero Dawn is a game about primitive civilizations in a post-apocalyptic world filled with robotic dinosaurs and beasts. Players play as Aloy, an outcast hunter who is forced to leave her home after unusual events threaten her tribe. The core of the gameplay focuses on role-playing, exploration, and of course, combat. Role-playing is generally pretty light. Players can use a dialogue wheel reminiscent of BioWare games to respond to NPCs, but this doesn't have the same impactful feel the way it does in Mass Effect or Dragon Age games. Players can use the dialogue wheel to basically ask questions and roleplay with compassionate, aggressive, or clever responses, but honestly, the system itself doesn't feel innovative or clever. Aloy herself often seems annoying, boastful, and sometimes even judgmental.
Nice to meet you, Vala. You're right. I am going to win tomorrow.
The role-playing lacks many of the choice and consequences of Dragon Age games or class-race reactivity of other role-playing games. In other words, role-playing is not really the focus of the game. The open world contains a lot of different features to find and explore. Enter futuristic ruins or test yourself in hunting grounds, eliminate bandit camps or search for special metal flowers. There's lots to do, but ultimately, most of it feels like busy work. The rewards feel lackluster and don't encourage me to do side content. Side quests feel uncompelling. The game doesn't make me want to help random strangers. The side quests are not integrated into the story and don't feel like they are really meaningful. They are also time-consuming and slow down the pacing of the narrative. Occasionally, you do exploring or investigating with your focus, tracking clues. I thought these would be kind of neat scenes, but instead they feel surprisingly gimmicky. It doesn't really feel like Batman cleverly looking for clues so much as more of a divination. Combat is the core of the gameplay. Aloy has a lot of skills and weapons. Even though there are tutorials, these abilities are not really well introduced. Aloy has a variety of arrows she can craft, some of which have elemental strengths, and others which are used for specific purposes, like removing components. She has a variety of traps and potions she can make as well. The combat occasionally makes you feel clever when you realize that Aloy has some choices between attacking head-on, shooting off weaponry, or going for weak points. These weak points are not always obvious, and even with Aloy's futuristic focus, it's not always clear the best ways to approach an enemy. I have often walked away wishing that the game had done a better job hinting or introducing the player to different options available to you. Stealth combat feels bad. No matter how you approach it, it often feels like enemies can find you no matter what you do. Line of sight and sound does not feel intuitive. Basically, towards the end of the game, I found myself not having a lot of fun. I was unwilling to turn down the difficulty, but I also felt like the game often wasted my time with encounters that felt unfair or challenging in ways that were just not enjoyable. And I say this as someone who enjoys challenging games like Souls-likes. Therefore, based on the relatively light role-playing, mediocre exploration, and seemingly opaque combat, for me personally, I'm going to give Zero Dawn 3 stars for fun factor. Educational value was something that felt like a missed opportunity in the game. I don't want to evaluate a game based on what it could have been rather than what it is, but there were many times that I couldn't help but feel I would have learned something interesting if this had been a Kojima game. The designs of the machines could have hinted at their in-game purposes in the story, or they could have been based on more real-life designs, but instead they were basically all designed to look like natural beasts. The game could have also spent more time exploring the ethical issues of generative AI, although perhaps this is an unfair criticism given the acceleration of AI abilities since the game's release. Still, perhaps I was expecting some Asimov illusions or some intelligent and plausible reasons for the glitch, but sadly, this never came. Zero Dawn does include some educational value in some real-life locations. You do have to go look for it, but it's there. In terms of motor skills, the game does have some things that it could teach in its difficulty and its interesting combat, but honestly, I could not bring myself to dig through the menus to figure out what the game wanted me to learn. The focus simply does not teach you enough, and Aloy's muttering isn't always helpful. In the end, I'm going to give Zero Dawn 3 stars for educational value. As a work of art, I did not really enjoy the game very much, despite there being numerous things that were really going for the game. The machine models and textures were probably the highlight. The robotic dinosaurs and beasts are a nice balance of natural and cybernetic organisms, even if they move awkwardly sometimes. The human models are less aesthetically pleasing. Many of the characters' faces simply feel unattractive. including Aloy's. I'm not saying that everyone needs to look like a supermodel, but many of the faces just look slightly awkward or disquieting. It's not quite Uncanny Valley, and it doesn't affect all the characters, but for me, many of the characters just look like designs from 15 years ago. The beautiful landscapes and carefully designed ruins are a delight to explore, but they are sometimes marred by dropped frames. The music was enjoyable, but it is often overwhelmed by the endless noises of robotic creatures, flying projectiles, and explosions. I lost track of the number of times my wife asked me to turn it down due to the noise of the combat, only for me to have to turn it up again later for the dialogue. Overall, sound felt like it needed some more fine-tuning. The voice acting was generally weak. Many characters felt unbelievable or annoying.
So, you have a face. Got a name to go with it?
There were a few exceptions.
Of all the questions you could ask right now, that's the one you choose.
But not many. Aloy is not a protagonist that I enjoyed playing as. The narrative pacing is awkward. Many main quests feel unimportant. There are intriguing developments in the plot, but unfortunately they are outnumbered by less interesting story beats for most of the game. As a new IP, Zero Dawn doesn't have a huge legacy to draw from, but has done very well since 2017. It has sold 24.3 million copies by April 2023 and has a sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, available on PS4, PS5, and PC. Some LEGO sets have been made based off of the Horizon franchise as well, exposing the franchise to non-gamer audiences. Overall, I'm going to assign the game 3 stars for its cultural value. As far as negative content, the game is relatively clean. There's little in the way of sexual content or even romance, other than the occasionally awkward hints of admiration.
I could use someone like you at my side.
There's little in the way of substance abuse.
Have you been drinking?
Not really. A little.
Most violence is against machines, although Aloy does end up killing a lot of bandits and cult members. The Lord's name is taken in vain many times.
Jesus less. Jesus less. Jesus less.
But I don't think it's meant to be intentionally offensive. Surprisingly, there's little in the way of positive content either. There are some positive role models in the game, such as Aloy's mentor Rost and the matriarch Tirsa, but even for them, the positive elements are impacted by a judgment of their religiosity.
It was you who taught me, not the wilds.
Some of the themes in the game are quite reasonable, but they are mixed in with other ideas that make the messages in the game inconsistent. For more analysis on the themes of the game, check out my biblical themes video for Horizon Zero Dawn. Even with good themes, however, execution is still questionable. Many emotional moments feel unearned and therefore lack the power behind their messages they could have had with better writing. Overall, I'm going to give Zero Dawn 3 stars for spiritual value. Horizon Zero Dawn is pretty typical of a AAA open-world game in terms of time value. For the time rich, there's plenty to do and collect. If you do enjoy open-world exploration, there are plenty of side quests and collectibles. Complete Edition even includes some additional higher-level side content to do. For me personally, though, none of the side content was really engaging or interesting. I didn't really do much of it at all. For the time poor, the main story can be completed in approximately 20 to 30 hours. My playtime was closer to 30, but I died a lot while playing the game on hard. One thing that often irritated me was the sense that the game did not really respect your time. Yes, it gives you fast travel packs, but the sense of disrespect was in the small details. Often there were not save points before bosses, so you could only rely on autosaves, or the game would expect you to wait for some of the slowest NPCs I have seen in a long time. On Steam, Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition currently retails at $49.99 USD and can regularly be found on sale at 75% off, which is admittedly good value for a AAA game, but maybe not for a game 7 years old. Overall, based on the content value, narrative accessibility, and asking price, I'm going to give the game 4 stars on price, mainly taking away a star for the sense that many things could have been streamlined. I really wanted to like Horizon Zero Dawn. In the past, I've been suspicious of open-world games giving me filler content to waste my time, but after a positive experience with Spider-Man Remastered, I thought maybe I was ready for this game. With an intriguing premise, awesome robotic dinosaurs, and some gorgeous post-apocalyptic landscapes, this game should have easily captured my heart. And yet, time after time, I was disappointed, with the game never quite meeting the optimistic expectations I had for it. I acknowledge that this could be a personal problem, especially given the sales numbers, but for me, it just always fell short. Based on the criteria discussed in the video, I subjectively assign Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition the rating of Sales Selection. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.